Hey guys, welcome back to the Mind Body Broadcast with Austin and Marty, and today we are back with another one of our Q&As. Try to do these, once a month, give or take. So we're back. We have,
but we're usually just so damn interesting that we have to wait for another week or so, right? That's it.
Yeah, right. I mean, sometimes we forget. Sometimes we just get a bunch of good topics and we just keep hammering. So don't feel like we're neglecting you guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like where we had like we said, some technical difficulties and like your questions might get disappeared and you'd be like, hey, those guys stopped caring. No, that's not it. We're just so damn enthusiastic about everything. Whatever.
All right. No. Okay, so I'm going to have to figure out where to start here because, like I said, we are scattered. So full disclosure, I posted a Q&A last week, like I do my weekly Q&As and stuff, and I had a technical difficulty. I recorded it, and then it vanished. So,
oh man, like,
yeah.
You know what? Even more full disclosure, I'm always secretly terrified that that's going to happen to us, and I'll be like, oh my god, we just wasted an hour, and now we'll never do it the same. So, like, yeah, that does not sound fun, man. Shit.
Yeah, well, and I thought about it. I was like, all right, so I re-record it, and you know what? The questions fall really nicely into the podcast, so I just told everyone, I'm like, hey, we'll just answer them on the podcast. So there you go.
Cool. That works.
Yep. So we'll add those in, and let's get to it.
Yeah, man.
All right. First question is how to mentally let go of exercise training volume and cardio. Oh, okay. So I'm going to have to get back to this one because he sent me like this gigantic PM personal message. We'll go to the next one. Can you give an example of how you would implement BFR training into the program?
Ooh.
Okay. Question for you. I don't know if that's something that you would you typically use. I mean, is that something that you would ever implement?
You know what? I would say about when was it? We'll say fresh on the scene, man. Like 5-6 years ago, 4 years ago. I remember when they were talking about like even John Meadows was talking about like using like knee wraps around the elbows and some stuff too. And like I'll say I tried it out because of course it was something that we're in this arena, so we gotta, if we hear something, we try it out. But the science didn't really pan out for me in a sense of, for me to let's put it this way. I've never put it in any of my clients' training programs to date. And if I've had someone ask me about it, which has been, I could probably count maybe, like, that's why this question is so great, because I forgot about this style of training if I'm going to be, thinking about it. Yeah. But there was a style of training too called blood starving. Did you ever hear about this?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, you would hold your arms above your head after a set of like arms, just it was kind of around the same time. And I was like, this stuff looks like it was made by dudes in lab coats that just don't want to train hard enough now. And now, of course, like I'm being real aggressive there, but like I get it if your joints are shot, or maybe you've got some tendonitis, or you got some what's the word I'm looking for? Not tennis elbow, but like just any kind of issues there. Sure, like you can put the wraps on and do like the higher rep stuff, but in terms of it being something that I would implement even now, I still don't think so, unless someone had like a dying urge and they really believe that this is gonna amp up their training. Then sure, have at it, because as we've talked about, the best training program people could do is the one that they want to do and the one they enjoy. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think you touched on the important points there for joint integrity. There might be a reason to implement it, and then also, I guess if you enjoy it, but it's there. I mean, there is a little bit of science behind it. Like it has been shown to have benefit toward hypertrophy, but is it going to? It's not going to trump, progressive overload or traditional volume. I mean, but I'm trying to think off the top of my head. The only time I've ever used it was in an injury situation where...
See, there you go. Perfect. Yep.
Yeah. And he asked, how would you implement it? So I can tell you how I would implement it. So if we're using real simple examples, arms, of course, that's the typical one.
Yep.
People use it for legs as well if they knee problems or whatever. But I would normally do like a giant set type of fashion or supersets.
Yes.
Yeah. Leave the wraps on the whole time. Don't take them off. That's a common question. Should I take them off? No. Leave the wraps on through the whole entire, if you're doing four giant sets or however many it is, and then take them off when you're done. And typically that's something I would do towards the end of the session. Now, if you're really in a compromised situation where your joints are very beat up, then you could obviously do it at the beginning as like a pre-exhaust. And
sure.
It's if you pump all that blood in there, it is going to help with the whole proprioception thing. I mean, if your muscle's full and then you want to go do a heavy leg press or heavy squat after, you're obviously going to feel it a lot better.
Yeah.
So you could do it at the beginning, but normally it's used more towards the end. But yeah, there is some science there, but I would never substitute it for what we know works. So
sure. And I will touch on that too. Like I would say one of the better reasonings about why doing it at the beginning, if you would work, is that as we both know, dudes, let alone like women, are significantly better for this, but dudes do not do the correct warm up at all. They're doing like a machine gun set of 25 on the bench press without the bar, and then they're throwing their max weight on. So if you're going to get, like you said, the joint integrity, and you're going to get the blood into the muscle, now that's going to be what's saving the joints to begin with. But like, that's kind of the point, is, do a correct damn warm up. It'll save you years off your training for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of the time with joint issues, it's two things. I mean, you have some kind of imbalance that's impinging the joint, which is a lot of it. A lot of people don't correct those. They're like, hey, what knee wraps can I wear? I'm like, well,
oh God, we could have a whole podcast on that crap. You got it.
But another part of it, really another big part of it, is just poor proprioception or poor mind muscle connection. Cause I always use the example, your joint doesn't move itself, your muscle moves the joint. Activate the muscle properly, and the joint integrity will be saved 9 times out of 10.
I've never heard that before, and I really like that. That's exactly it. The joint is not. Yeah, that's awesome. I like that.
I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, I'm like,
about time you've had one of these, man. Like, there's from Austin's ass. Finally, there we go. This is what I'm talking about. Good, good man. I like that a lot.
It seems very simple, but yeah, it's kind of like a forgotten thing. So. Okay, sweet. We'll move on to the next one. So here's a more psychological question. Do you believe negative visualization of imagining the worst case scenario could be a good way to prepare and be less emotional if something bad does happen? Oh God. So like expecting the worst. Okay. Yeah. So he says, for example, visualizing losing a competition so you're more motivated to win, but also less emotional if you don't. Oh, do you think negative visualization could be a useful tool in this way? And he also adds, do you think it could make you more grateful for life in general? I'm like, that to me kind of sounds like you're just lowering your standards.
Yes, and you know what? I've got this a lot from people in the workplace, or like, let's say older generation kind of passing on to younger generation, is like, expect the worst so you're never let down or whatever. And I think that's such a bunch of shit, because that now you're not going to be excited for anything. So that's kind of the life part of it there. But in terms of like preparing, like as in you could lose the show, sure. Well, how many times have we said we don't know who's going to show up? Like I've used the term, people come out of the woodwork. There could be a dude that's been lifting for 20 years, looks great, and just has never stepped on stage, and he steps on stage with 5 of his other buddies, and now you're in 6th as opposed to 1st, which you thought you were going to be the crowd or fan favorite. Sure. But now expecting that, man, I don't think there's going to be a tremendous value versus you visualizing positively the first place thing, right? And the crazy enough, I think it was 6 or so years ago, there was some really neat science coming out about the positive reinforcement versus the negative stuff, right? Like yes, like you can have workouts fueled by anger. We've all had that, and sure, that works. But now having it be fueled by we'll say gratitude and positivity it has literally been shown to have more of a positive effect in terms of not only on your strength, but as the outcome too, just like your cortisol will balance, type of thing too. Like, because let's say that you are preparing to come in last or whatever, something like that. Now, let's say that is throwing off, now you got anxiety. Now that's not going to be productive in any way, shape, or form, right? As opposed to looking forward to that, we'll say that like you visualizing your first place with the trophy and everything else. So that's kind of where I would stand on it. But also the flip of that is, like I said, just don't expect anything. I would say don't expect negative or the positive, but definitely visualize, because I like that term. The visualize is more towards the positive. That's my take.
Yeah, I think I see what he's saying.
Sure, I do too. Yep.
I understand the concept, but I think too much of that, and you're just lowering your standard, and you're going to start caring less.
Yes.
Type.
Yep.
I think that's going to be.
Now you're not now maybe you're not looking forward to the show anymore because you're like, oh well, what's the point? I'm going to lose, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's, of course, just be realistic. I think if you're realistic, that's the biggest thing. I mean, and he talks about the, minimizing the emotional component. Well, if you're realistic and logical, and what can I realistically do at this show? Well, what can I control? I know that I can be my best, and I'm going to do everything I can to be my best. And beyond that, whatever variables I can't control, I shouldn't have some emotional attachment to them, Yeah. Now that's obviously like way easier said than done, because people that are competitive don't like to lose. But at the same time, like
sure.
I think that's probably the best way to look at it.
Well, you know what? I really like how you kind of said that too. But like, let's do some shameless promotion. That's one of the key reasons why you have a coach. You know what I mean? So you can, like, it's great that we're able to answer these questions here. But like, if let's say they get more personalized, and let's say, I don't know, you're worried about if you're going to have a job when your show's done or something like that. That's, something you can obviously talk to a coach about. But like having that guide to not fall too deeply, like you said, into that negative stuff, because you will stop the enjoyment. And that's, my God, that's one of the most dangerous spots to be in, is when you start losing the love of something that you were always interested in. Because like, I'm going a little bit off topic here, but I remember listening to a presenter a year ago, and he was talking about how people become so obsessed with the trophy that they forget why they even started lifting. And like, I thought about that, and I was like, holy crow, that sounds so terrible. Like, how many people have you seen, either in bodybuilding, whatever, that have like had an identity crisis because when it's done, or even when it's not done, they don't even remember that enjoyment of, like, so for me, it was like getting stronger for football, and I will always remember how cool that was, right? To go, like, couldn't bench press the bar, and then a couple months later, I was having one of the 45s on either side. I'm like, this is amazing, as opposed to it being about a trophy from the beginning. So yeah, I know it went off topic, but that's kind of like what I would like to do in terms of visualization and making sure I don't lose sight of why I started.
Yeah. And I don't, just from the coach perspective, I mean, I've had people that I'm like, in my head, I'm like, holy crap, I don't know how they could possibly lose, but I'd never tell them that.
Oh, bang on, man. Oh God. Like, and go ahead.
I would feel like a complete ass if they did.
But here's the thing: is like, locally there was such a thing here with like promise placings, like, and it was the exact opposite. They were overshooting, like in a sense of if like, let's say I knew my client was gonna be 5th or so, they'd be like, no man, I'm top 3 for sure. So then when the top 3 does not happen, then what do these other coaches do? They'll either blame the judges, or of course not themselves. But that's, yeah, like I've been like literally in my chair knowing that a couple people that I coached are gonna win the overall, and like they're backstage and they're like, hey, how did I do? And I'm like, you know what, things look really good, just don't get too overexcited, be you're in the top 5 or whatever, right? And it's hard, isn't it? It's to like, not, like you said, go, oh yeah, you're gonna win the show for sure. Like it's hard.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you there. It's better not just to let them keep keep doing their best and not get too lackadaisical with it.
That's exactly it. Lackadaisical. You got it.
There's a word for you.
Okay. I would have said whimsical, but let's go with lackadaisical. That works too.
Next one's okay. Interesting one here. So, any experience with clients using accutane for acne treatment, and what kind of things would you monitor? For example, while looking at blood work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can touch on it.
Have you ever used it? Like
no,
did you have like? So I had. I'll definitely let you go for it because I had very serious acne from about grade 6 to grade 9, and this is when it was brand new. Like it was like literally the old school commercial of the dude saying, "Some people think I eat too many chocolate bars or that I don't wash my face." Like that was like, what is this? And so I did multiple forms of acne treatment, and the only thing that cleared up my back, like my back looked like I had been shot by paintballs. Like it was so bad. They were the big purple disgusting ones, and Accutane did get rid of it, but you're supposed to be on Accutane, and I don't know if this has changed now that they've got the newer versions of it out, but it was supposed to be a maximum of 3 months because like I had to go in every week in grade 6 with my mom, once a month to get my liver checked out because that's how harsh this shit was at that time. And I don't know if there's been newer versions of it or what, but so they were monitoring me grade 6, grade 7 every month to make sure things were okay. So I was on it for 6 months, and then again a couple years later, again for another 6 months because it came back. That's how awesome my acne was. But like, I'll let you go from here because you said you probably got better of the lab aspect from there, and then I'll just keep going. You go for it.
Actually, no, actually, you covered it pretty good. There's one little thing I could add is just that the liver enzymes are typically like the common thing that people are going to look at. Now, in a normal healthy person, I've never actually seen it be a huge issue as long as they're using. Normally, a good rule of thumb, use the minimum effective dose.
Sure.
For the for shorter duration. Yep. Now, the one thing that I think is really important to point out here is that there's also a lot of people using methylated PEDs that are processed through the liver. Yep. So this is where it starts to get a little tricky, and I'd always ask that person because now you're talking about a whole new level of stress on their liver. So you in the 6th grade or whatever. Obviously that's like not a thing. So, but a lot of these guys that are getting cystic acne, especially from like, excessive DHT conversion and things like that. Well, yeah, they're getting it a lot of the time because they take these oral compounds that are also processed through the liver. So now in that case, you better be watching your liver.
Yeah.
So that's really the only thing I would add. It's something that it seems like most people, the newer versions, they tolerate it all right. Like I said, as long as you're using a minimum effective dose. I don't see, like, I've had a few clients prescribed it, and it seems like their doctors have been pretty good about it. So haven't.
Oh, it is like if you go in, like that's what I mean. It's like if it's not, they'll be able to tell by not only the stage of the acne, how old you are. They'll be able to know kind of all that stuff for sure. I will add one thing that I'm remembering it now is that really watch your mood. Because it was so new then that I had no idea and no one did, but like I started getting hammered with depression about 2 months in, and I just had no idea why. Like, and I've always been super into music. I stopped listening to music. My mom was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I don't know." So be very cautious of that. Like if you are on any kind of SSRI, antidepressant or anything like that, I would. You're mixing alcohol with an upper type of thing. You know what I mean? You might want to reconsider that too. It's like the other one I know that can do. It's not the same mechanism at all, but I know when people are using Propecia or finasteride for like hair loss and they're using way too much or whatever, that can alter your mood pretty good too because of the estrogen stuff it does. But yeah, like I don't know the mechanism behind Accutane, but what it did. But both times I was more prepared for it the second time 2 years later, but still I was like, this is awful and I hate it. It was so the only thing that kind of we'll say, kept me positive if I had to was that it was getting rid of my acne, which I was grade 7, and then in grade 10, like, that's the last thing you want is to be a pizza face. And so that kind of kept me going. But definitely that was something to add, is that if you are using Accutane, pay damn close attention to your mood, because it can do some wild stuff.
There you go. Now you guys know. You have more experience with it than me. It's anyhow. So
man, I've done laser treatment. I've done, like, it was called the blue U. So like literally had to put my face into this conical U-shaped light and had to not be exposed to light for 2 days. Like, I've got a hilarious picture on my Facebook of me wrapped up in a scarf with sunglasses on, because that's how my mom had to drive me home. Like, I've been through hell and back with acne. So if anyone wants to know any stuff about acne, give me a message, and I know more about skincare than I ever wanted to know. But it's like, if you've never been diabetic, you don't really know much about diabetes, and then when you do, you know quite a bit more. So yeah.
Right. Sure. Sweet. There you go. I like it. Good info there. And okay, so next one. Do you find more adherence or success with clients using a macro-based plan or a meal plan? Okay. Now, I'm going to twist this a little bit, because
you bastard, I knew you were. Yeah, good.
I get asked this sometimes, like a new client, and
yes,
I said, well, what is a meal plan? A meal plan is just a macro plan. It's just you're not rotating the food. Okay, it's not, right. You know what I mean? Like, there's always macros. The macros are there. It's whether it's the coach is calculating the macros one way or the other, regardless of how the plan is set up. So I think that people, they hear macro plan and they might get overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to learn how to count all these foods and rotate my foods all the time. I'm like, well, no, you don't have to do that with a macro plan. Right. I mean, you can have a macro plan and eat the same thing all the time, and then occasionally, if you want to, rotate. That's why I always encourage it, because it can be something as simple as you literally eat the same plan for a month, and you want to do some simple rotations. You want to rotate your chicken breast out and eat some turkey or pork tenderloin or lean beef, or you want to rotate your vegetables, or you want to rotate a simple carb source, go from white rice to potato. Well, you can. Now you can. You're not bound to a set meal plan. That's still a macro plan. So I think the idea where people get overwhelmed with macro plan because they think that it requires like so much work.
Counting, the counting, right. the putting stuff into an app, and that's not for everybody. It isn't. Like, it's not for me. I'll tell you that. I have go ahead. You keep going.
No, well, what I was going to say too, with just people that are worried about that, like, I literally tell them, I said, okay, here's the macros, here's the guidelines. I said, set yourself a sample day for training and non-training, or however I have it, split up, and stick to it. Stick to it as long as you want. And then when you feel comfortable and you want to rotate stuff in, that option is there. And the only thing that's really doing is it's just expediting the process, and you don't have to, like, if you're someone that gets bored with it, you don't have to ask your coach all the time, hey, can you do, rotate this and this and this. And, you don't have to sit there and live on MyFitnessPal and and another big mistake is that people don't plan their days ahead of time. They try to.
What you mean? You've never had the question, hey, I've got 3 grams of fat, 17.4 grams of protein left. What do I eat? Oh my God.
I'm like, I said, unless you are a very, very seasoned macro counter, you shouldn't be doing that.
And you have to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, there's some people that really do get excitement out of that as opposed to anxiety. And that's not me, but I know there are people that do really enjoy it because it's part of their process, it's part of their journaling, whatever. And that's super cool until it becomes a problem. So I kind of have 3-ish set ways that I'll do my coaching. Is I'll if people are seasoned, like you said, sure, I always give people the macros and I say, here you go. And just like you said, just send me a sample diet. Okay, cool, we're on the same page. Okay, let's run with it. And but then I do I'll call it set plan with options. So I'll give like 30 grams of carbs, and here are your choices. Pick one of the 5. And that's usually how I'll structure almost everybody. And then in terms of an exact dead set plan, in terms of you are having 5 ounces of chicken with this and that might be for the dying hours of prep. And if someone needs that, like, more control in a sense of they don't want to have it be even a thought, they don't want to choose between oatmeal and rice, that's fine. And here we go. But I don't like doing that forever because, exactly like you said, that's, you're going to be asking the coach for like a new plan weekly. And that's not really teaching. That's not coaching. Like, if people think that you're getting a new plan, like, I could literally sub out rice and give you oatmeal and go, oh my God, my coach just gave me a new plan. No, that's, yeah, that's all I got to say on that one.
I think it's just a kind of poor perception of how it actually works. And I think we just get a little overwhelmed with it when it's really not like that. So
all plans are macro plans. You know what I mean? They all have macronutrients. All plans are calorie plans in a sense. So it's just which way do you want to look at it? Which way is the healthiest for you in terms of mentally and physically? And then, run with it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, shit, I am literally like, I have every food I would ever possibly eat memorized. I don't need any apps or anything. I can plug them into an Excel sheet, but guess what? I still have my day planned before I start. So, it's just a little bit of planning, but next one we'll move on to.
Sure.
Okay. Who are some notable prep coaches from whom you've learned the most from, during your early years? Okay. Yeah. I can answer that one first if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
So I don't really have anyone in particular because I was kind of I hopped around to so much stuff. I was told, and I'll tell you what, I was told a really good piece of advice, and I don't even remember who said it to me, but they said, you don't need a particular book. You don't need a particular, source of information. The best skill that you need is deciphering what's right and what's wrong when when you're reading. And that's a huge problem for a lot of people now. I mean, the information is plentiful. It's just that, is it what's correct? Who should I listen to? So, there was a few people, I like forums and stuff. I would go on and follow. And I worked with, I did work with Jason Theobald early on, who I still do some prep work with some years for my preps. So I would say that would be obviously one of the people that helped me with like just understanding practical stuff like metabolism, how all that crap works, how my body works. And of course that did help me, but I wasn't ever attached to one source. I mean, I pulled information from just everywhere. So I don't have a really good answer for that. But I know you do. I know you have a better answer because I know there's at least one individual that's been very influential.
Oh, well, yeah, because like for me, it was kind of funny because I was a coach hopper. But why? Because I was gathering the information and I was more than willing to pay these people that were better than me to learn from them. And it wasn't to steal or to copy. It was to literally then do my own critical thinking and go, okay. So I would say probably the first couple people I followed was definitely Chris Aceto, just because everyone was talking about at this time was like low carb, and he was dieting people on carbs, and I was like, what? That can work? And I bought Championship Bodybuilding and read his books and everything else, and so that was like, I've never worked directly with Chris, but I've always respected him because he's one of the dudes that's had his hat in the arena for how long, and he's still whopping out amazing clients. So it success leaves clues, right? Right. I worked with him as one-on-one coaching was Scott Abel, and just the dude was a pioneer. Like funny enough, him and Chris Aceto were at the same. It was called like Muscle Camp or something in 1989, and this is literally Scott Abel came up with the term cheat day. He came up with the term cheat meal. He came up with the term shit loading. Like that was all him. And so there was he tells it better than me, but there's a story of Chris Aceto literally sitting and watching Scott Abel plow himself full of junk and just watching him eat all this food and then just get leaner as the week went on. He was so fascinated by it he started learning from that, right? But Scott was so ahead, he just knew metabolism way better than anyone else at that time. And this was way before textbooks or science was coming out about anything to do with leptin or anything, or if it was in its infancy, and it was definitely not being pushed towards bodybuilding. And so that's, you said it perfectly, is that if you can interpret, it's like, let's say certain science and then go, okay, how can this work for prep or for, because like one of the biggest misconceptions, I'm going a little bit off here, but is diuretics. You know what I mean? Everyone thinks that you take this magic pill and now before you know it, you're waking up dry and shredded or whatever. But how many times have you seen someone come in flat or take too much or take whatever? Because like that, that's not critical thinking. That is just following, like you said, one source, which maybe you read it from some bozo on a forum that he took 6 diazide. Which, ladies and gentlemen, that's an outrageous amount. But I've heard of these people doing it, and I'm like, where do you get these protocols from, right? So I would say Scott was definitely one of the bigger shapes for me. Then I also will shout out definitely Ken Hill, Skip. He taught me about the timing of overeating carbohydrates in terms of like that you need about 5 hours or more to actually shut things down in terms of the body recovering and getting T3 levels to raise back up. So he was really influential for me. And then John Meadows too. Just he was still a banker at the time, which I gush about him because he was just such a, but that for that aspect, it was because he was such a damn good, he still is. And so that was really motivating for me, is that you don't need to be an asshole in this business. You can be awesome. You can have great kids. You can be married and committed to your wife, and that's awesome. So that was definitely that for me too. But I've had really good coaches and I've had really bad coaches, and that has shaped my coaching. But like if I had to, let's say, reputable prep coaches, like like Canada's a different ball game than the U.S. and like some people will jive more of an online thing. Some people won't jive for an online thing, but as I'm sure you can echo this too, to give out a really hard recommendation and say, hey, I put my seal of approval on this person. I've been let down too many times, man. Like I've seen, like, me and you know each other well enough. And like, I would definitely recommend yourself just from not only your character, but the results too. But that like, it's going to sound conceited for the both of us, but like, I don't really recommend a lot of people outside of that now, just because it's just what I've seen in terms of the industry not going where I really want it to. But like reputable people, like, I would say Chris Aceto, just because he's produced champions forever, but like good luck hiring him because I think he only works with top level people anyways. And then Scott Abel has not worked with a competitor since 2007, just because he got so fed up with the drugs and everything else in the whole scene, and he was just like, I'm done. So you can't hire him. You can hire him for kind of off-season stuff or whatever. But yeah, for me to put, like I said, that seal of approval on anybody, I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, people are kind of like a little touchy when it comes to recommending themselves when somebody asks for a coach. And I get that. I know. Yep. I get that from being humble or whatever, but I'm like, I'm not afraid to recommend myself because like, I'm confident in what I do. And it's you, like you said, success leaves clues, but I think maybe if you're really out there hunting too, I think maybe look for somebody that might have either works with the type of people that you are yourself, or has a large diversity of clients, because that also probably means that they're very versed in multiple things. So either one of those, like if they fit your bill, then it's probably a good bet. Or if they have a large variety of clients, then they probably have a pretty good understanding of different scenarios. But yeah, I'm like, just, hey, why not work with me?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I get it entirely. I would just add to that would be, let's say if you were a figure competitor, don't hire someone that's only coach bikini people. or vice versa. You know what I mean? Like that would be the, like, outside of giving, like I said, a direct name, that would be something like, yeah, like you summed it up perfectly in terms of what are the kind of clients that they have, right? Like, as in, like, I love to talk up my girls all the time, just because I think they're so awesome. I think they're smarter than the average client, and that's what makes my job so much more fun, right? But like, it is like, and it will be, it'll be, it's a fit thing, right? Like I've had to turn down clients after 2 weeks, 4 weeks, because I'm like, you know what, this is just, I'm not for you. I'm sorry. And then I would outsource to someone potentially, or yeah, I'm gonna leave it there.
Cool. It's good. I like it. Oh goodness, we're not going to be able to answer this next one.
Okay.
It's one of the very vague question. Best way to get digestion rolling again post show. I'm not even exactly sure what that means.
I bet you what that means is that because so many people are either on way too many digestive enzymes, they've been eating the same like 2 foods the entire time, so now their body's not recognizing when they dump in steak. So I think that's
right.
what they're going from there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, you can answer it. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I've always believed in. I even put up a post about it the other day there about Garden of Life's probiotic. I think that's such a staple. That's got to be in there all the time, regardless if it's prep or if it's off season. But if you don't have that in your post show at the minimum, and you're wondering why your digestion's not there, it's you gotta start. You gotta put the healthy bacteria in there too, right? Depending upon how little the dieting the food was, depending upon like stomach acid levels and kind of everything else from there. So that would be where I would start. And then I would just, you have to give things about a good 2 weeks too. Like if you have never had asparagus and you have asparagus once and you bloat and you get gassy and farty, that's not going to be exactly asparagus. Give it about 2 weeks of being in your diet with some kind of frequency, and then you can kind of test for it kind of from there. But just start eating more. Like, don't eat like crap. Like, you know what I mean? For every meal, like anyone that I've known that's had this question, that's had really, really bad digestion, it's because the crap is still in there too much. Like because you went from eating so healthy pre-contest, and now after the show you're putting crap in there. Yes, you're gonna feel terrible. You're gonna be bloated. You're not gonna be digesting things correctly. You're gonna be constipated, or you're gonna have diarrhea. Whatever happens, but that it's, you know, clean it. Like, well, I know it's a hilarious term, but clean it up first. Use a probiotic, and then go from there after that, because I can't give you anything more specific than that, unfortunately, because it would be such an individual basis.
Yeah. You kind of touched on what I would add there, is just probably the biggest mistake people make is like their post-show binging and all that shit. Well, guess what? I mean, you not only is your digestive system not prepared for that and compromised, but even a good digestive system is you're going to cause all kinds of inflammation, alter your gut bacteria very negatively. You're going to feel like crap. So if you want to find a great way to really mess your digestion up for a terrible start to your off season, binge after your.
You know what?
Yeah.
Who would answer these questions better is anyone that's either has Crohn's or has really bad IBS. Talk to them and see, like, they have one cup of ice cream and their digestion is screwed for a week. Like, I remember that was so mind blowing when I was first getting into this. I remember one of my clients, Tammy, she had IBS, and she's like, yep, some days it's moody. I could be eating the same thing, and then all of a sudden I am bloated and I constipate. I was like, wow. So I had to start looking into this more, right? So we take for granted our digestion. I think we'll say the people that are like, yeah, I have great bowel movements or whatever. It's like, okay. But it's definitely the essence is clean up the crap. Don't go too haywire on it. Start eating things that your body was used to in a way. But like, yeah, it's not gonna. And here's the thing too, is it's not gonna be a day of eating clean or healthy or whatever you want to call it, and now you're great again. No. You gotta keep it going, or else, because then just saying, oh, my digestion's screwed. Well, how much effort are we really putting in, right?
Yeah, and there's just other factors too. I mean, it's like your body's so your body's so systemically stressed at that point from the prep and probably like overuse of stimulants and just all of this stuff. And so, I mean, you gotta take all that into consideration and know that it's going to take a little bit of time. And it's just, even just not the binging thing, but I mean, if you quadruple your calories right out of the gate, I mean, you're going to be a bloated mess. So
one of the great analogies for that is if you've been drinking a liter of water your whole life and all of a sudden your plan has 4 liters of water, guess what's going to happen? Bloat, bathroom, like your body's, and that's not even food. That's just something as simple as water.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So I think that's slowly acclimating to things is kind of the best way to sum that up. So, okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to jump over to the other thread, which was my thread.
Sure.
Original. And,
oh God, I'm getting Austin questions now. I don't feel prepared for this. Okay. Oof.
Questions on there. Okay. These were all psych-based questions. So, which is fine. That's kind of our jam as well.
I would say it's our jam. I would say it is. Yep.
It's definitely part of our jam. So here, what are some general starting points for those who are trying to optimize gut health in order to help negate or mitigate anxiety, given the noted connection? There you go. That's a good one. Well, it's not here. Because I already answered this question once, as I said, it just fell out. It just didn't work for me. But this is kind of the tricky part. So it's a twofold problem, because we know a couple things. We know that digestion can negatively impact mood, but we also know that mood can negatively impact digestion. Yep. So I always, when I look at this situation, I'm like, what came first, the chicken or the egg type of thing? I would ask the person, all right, so have you always been have you struggled with anxiety for a long time and now all of a sudden you're having digestive issues, or are you now anxious and then your digestive issues, arose from there? So that would give me insight into which one is actually causing the problem. Because, if it's a case where somebody is typically a moderate to low stress person, then all of a sudden they're very stressed and their GI goes wacky, they might not need a bunch of digestive supplements or changes in their foods or things. It's probably just a case of stress management at that point. They need
a vacation. Like, how many times have you, I have clients go away on vacation and they'll come back with better digestion. They'll have lost weight, even though they've eaten off plan or whatever, because there's so much science behind that, for sure, straight up.
Yeah. So that's really this really super duper simple answer to that is figure out which of the two is actually causing the issue, and then you'll be able to solve the problem. I mean, that's now, of course, if it's digestion related causing the mental side of it, that's going to be a really hard question to answer, because we have to know what's the reason. I don't know that can't really sit here and throw out. We could do the obvious things like eliminate food culprits that bother your digestion. If you need, there's certain supplements, if you're having problems digesting fats, increase your bile, or you might need more stomach acid, so use betaine, or you might have food intolerances, or you might be low enzymes. So we can say general stuff like that, but it would be really hard without more context to answer that.
And we do, I'll reference we do have a really good podcast on digestion and gut health, which could probably help out quite a bit there too. Yep. Because we literally talk for about an hour exactly, and just like troubleshooting and stuff like that. But yeah, I've got nothing to add. You have to, it's so individual, and chicken or the egg, perfect. Yep.
All right. Next one.
It's like you answered it already, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Here's a good one. So what are some trends or assumptions you've made from just doing bodybuilding and talking to other like-minded people? For example, I've noticed that a lot of bodybuilders enjoy training intensely are kind of adrenaline seekers. They sort of like that beat up feeling.
Sure.
I'd compare it to people who do life and death activities, skydiving, so on and so forth. I'm not really sure if you've noticed the same. And if so, why do you think some people enjoy these things? Is it a genetic component or is it something they've developed?
A and B. It's because you cannot change if you're an introvert. You cannot fake it to be an extrovert, and vice versa. So what if we, especially if we're talking about bodybuilding and we're talking about like male bodybuilding, it almost entirely will attract the introverted person that is some way somehow looking to improve themselves. Like I'm being really strongly heavily here, but like I would say the most successful ones, like just look at Yates. Perfect example, you know what I mean? He kept to himself in the basement. He said he's been quoted so many times saying that his least favorite part about bodybuilding was putting on the bikini and jumping on stage. He loved every other damn component of it, right? But now in terms of like adrenaline seekers or whatever, that's just flat out endorphins, right? Like if you work out and you it's a great feeling. It releases these feel good hormones inside of you, right? But now to go as far as, let's say, the skydiving and the what's the other one? Like they jump out of a helicopter and goes like skiing. Like that's I can talk about this because what that is trying to do is you are not thinking about your taxes. You are not thinking about anything else other than, holy shit, I just jumped out of a goddamn plane. And so that's why people are doing this. They're just to put themselves into the present moment. They're not worrying about their depression. They're not worrying about their anxiety. They are right there, right now. And so for the most part, like you got to think during a set, the last thing you want is someone coming up and talking to you when you're trying to do those last 2 reps, because that will just not only crush the set, but you will not be able to focus. And that's why especially for what I'm thinking this person is asking and like why they're kind of driven towards that is for that reason, because it is something really quick. Even if it's for those last 2 reps or whatever, you're not thinking about anything other than that right there, and that's one of the bigger tricks to it. Now for the being beat up or whatever, like still one of the most conceptualized things would be that you need to perpetually feel like a bag of shit, or you're not, your workout wasn't good enough or whatever. Like how many memes have we seen about after leg day, need a wheelchair and whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. And that, yes, especially bodybuilding will attract those people more so than, let's say, someone else that's not really looking to cripple themselves. But now that can not only play into, because I would say, 4 to 5, if not more, people don't train hard enough. And then sure, there is the 1 out of 5 that do train way too hard, and that's what's holding them back. But that's such a unicorn, right? Which that's Yates, I'll reference him again. Yates figured that out because he trained so damn hard. He actually started training less days in his week because he knew he was getting so freaking beat up. But how many people do we know train as hard as him? Nobody, right? But it's that's. So yeah, there is a genetic component for sure, but you can also, it's just like if you try something out, like if you never tried out painting and now you go painting, you're like, oh my God, I love this. Well, cool. So maybe you're just activating your genes. I don't know. What do you think on that?
Well, I'm very much guilty of that. The whole, associating feeling beat up with progression of some type. Now, obviously, like there's a time and a place. Like right now, I'm 3 weeks out from a show. I feel like, 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. Well, that kind of that's just kind of comes with the territory at the moment. But the thing is, in previous years, I would feel like I needed that feeling all the time, and just ruin myself in the gym. And I had all those adrenal issues and all that, stress related stuff pop up. And it was like, always trying to find something more to just, and it almost sounds like it's like a masochistic type of, mindset. But at the same time, I can also backtrack that a little bit, because I raced motocross for most of my life, and then I did, which is obviously like super high adrenaline sport, and then I did wrestling. So, and wrestling is also because it's you and one other person. You know, it's an individual. It's an individual type of sport, especially when you're getting that up to a high level. And of course, bodybuilding was an easy transition
for sure
from there. So, would I have been drawn towards bodybuilding had I not done those other things? I don't know. I couldn't answer that. Like I couldn't answer that because my parent or my dad specifically introduced me to the motocross, right? So had he not done that, would I have ended up somewhere else? That's a really hard question to answer. I would think that I probably would have gravitated towards something similar anyhow.
Sure. Something independent, not necessarily team-based. Yep.
Because I do all the time, even with my job. I'm self-employed. I'm my own boss. I'm my own employee. I'm my own everything. So, I certainly think there's a genetic component there, and I don't think it's necessarily even a bad trait. It's just that you have to know how to make it work to your advantage.
Oh, just like anything, right? Yeah, you got to wield that for sure. Because that's a perfect example. Both the adrenal glands, everything, is that's when it got out of your hands. You know what I mean? And like that's cool that it wasn't anything like you're still here. You know what I mean? You didn't put yourself critically for super long, but now you can wield that better, though, right?
Yeah, and sometimes when you do have that type of personality, unfortunately, they're going to have to learn the hard way. I mean, luckily I've had those experiences and I'm able to really relay that message to clients, but there's people, they just don't want to listen to me. They don't want to accept the fact that they are damaging themselves and they're actually being counterproductive by doing more.
Oh yeah.
And you can't always help them. I mean, not everyone's going to want to listen. And I can even tell them, I can be like, look, I've ended up in the emergency room. I've done this and that, and they still don't want to accept it until something bad actually happens to them. And hopefully it's not too bad that they can't recover.
It's not renal failure or something. Yep. You got it.
So that's kind of my answer. But
I'll give a little bit of a different spin on this. So I'm adopted, and so my mom there was no idea what my genetic component would be, right? So bless her, my parents were awesome for this. They literally threw me in every frigging sport to see what they're throwing shit at their like spaghetti at the thing and see what sticks, right? So like I did because my dad worked obscene hours. Like 1 a.m. type of thing, and my mom was an elementary teacher, so I didn't have the privilege to play hockey. So what they put me in figure skating just to see, so I could skate and whatever else. I did swimming, I did football, I did and then it was kind of what did I enjoy? And so I'm not the opposite of you, but a little bit of a different take is that like I love team sports, and then when my favorite was football. I played football for 7 years, and then at the end of grade 12. It was like, okay, I'm not good enough to play college or university, but as I said, I was lifting weights. I think in grade 11, I started to get stronger for football, and I was like, you know what, this is really cool. I like this. Like, and now it was something I didn't need someone else to be dependent upon. Like if practice was canceled, no, I could still go to the gym type of thing. And that was, it was, to parallel it too, I had a great band that I was in university, and just, it was super awesome. And then when I moved out to the West, like no one was really into the same music as me. So I picked up DJing. Like I literally bought my own like turntables and things so I could do it independently. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm a little bit more introverted than what I thought. And that also will parallel, like you said, we're our own bosses. Like we enjoy our alone time. We don't need that constant stimulus of talking to a whole bunch of other people. But like, I would say that there is a genetic component, and I really like what you said about like the dad, not forcing by any means, but like putting you into wrestling. That just got you there quicker in terms of like, you're like, okay, I really like this independence. I'm like, okay, cool. This is my jam. This is what I like. So yeah, man, it's just like, yeah, like I said with my parents, they're like, they threw me in everything. It's like, okay, what do you enjoy? And I was like, I'm so thankful for that. Right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Cause I mean, if I didn't like it, I probably would have done something else. So again,
for sure.
I would have ended up where I was supposed to end up eventually.
Oh, I was watching there's a a new Netflix special of a lady named Brene Brown, and I've been following her for quite some time. And she said something actually literally hit home so good. That it was that there's belonging and then there's fitting in, and like who hasn't tried to fit in at some point, but now you actually belong there, right? Like, so do you belong in the gym, in your barn gym lifting weights? Yeah, you do, because you're not fitting in for anybody. You're wearing your clothes and whatever, right? And then
Right.
like when you have your seminars there or whatever, that's people belonging, right? They want to be there. But like, that's kind of it too, is, if you like to go really macrocosmic here, like if you did a show or you did 2 shows and there's something in your gut or the back of your head going, I don't know if I really like this, stop, because you'll lose the love of the working out. You won't necessarily enjoy, and then you might get this identity crisis, and now you're trying to fit in versus, do I really enjoy this, right? So
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic, the whole like investing your whole identity in that.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, so we'll move on to one of the Facebook questions. This is from one of your gals, Colette.
Oh, awesome.
She goes, how do you deal with being overwhelmed? Marty's given me some good advice and on this, and I think it should be shared. So I'm assuming she's wanting you to potentially just share what you've said.
Sure. So there's a gentleman named Kerwin Ray, he's kind of like the Australian version of Gary Vaynerchuk. If anyone doesn't know who Gary V is, that's cool. He's like he started he's a massive entrepreneur. He started selling wine and doing, like, he did YouTube wine shows before no one was listening. He had like 2 views, and now the dude's got millions of followers. He gets paid lots and lots of money to talk in front of people. Anyways, so Kerwin Ray put out this really influential video for me, because holy crap, do I ever throw myself into these pits of becoming overwhelmed. So funny enough, the word overwhelm is something we've created. Whelmed is actually the correct term. Overwhelmed is like saying overwhelmed. So just if you're whelmed, that means you're taking on too much. So, but like the good thing about overwhelm, this is what I think really helped Colette, because she's got a promotion at a job, and now she's traveling more, and she's like, holy crap, I don't know if I can handle this. I got to fit my training in. I got to be a good mom. I got to be a good wife. And I'm like, okay. I sent her this video, and she's like, holy shit, that was great. And it's, you get better at overwhelm. So like if you've only had 3 clients in a show, and then now you have 5, you might freak out for a bit, but then you will adjust to that, and now you can handle 7 clients the next time. And that's kind of like, and it is like, and you will be able to know where your overwhelm level is. But I will tell you, like, now, like, for instance, now I have about 45 or so clients, and you always use that gold marker of 83. Now, was that too much? Yep. But where now before, maybe I would have thought 50 was a lot. Now I don't. I'm acclimated to that. And that's the really cool thing about being exposed to massive amounts of overwhelm, is that now your needle can be pushed back. It's almost like a body weight and like a settling point versus a set point, is that you will get better at this stuff. And that is being really on the optimistic and positive side of things, but you have to take it that way, or else you will be always chronically set up to be overwhelmed with the exact same amount of what you consider being overwhelmed. And so, yeah, just take great solace in the fact that you will get better at it. And it's like one of those things that they say, life throws at you what you were able to deal with or whatever, which sure, kind of like that, but like, yeah, you really will get better at it, and then you will know it's just experience too.
Yeah, and there's always that really brief, or it could be not sober, it could be a little longer than you expect, but like that kind of uncomfortable adjustment period. Oh, you know, so yeah, it's and you basically said it how I would tell someone too. It's that what used to be a 10 on my stressometer is now a 1. Yeah, type of thing. Yeah, and it is. That's really what it's like. I mean, you just acclimate to things. I mean, you just get used to it, and you are able to adjust. And if you can't, then there's your cap. You know, if you don't adjust eventually, well, then you are actually overwhelmed, and you do have a limit, whether it's amount of clients you have or your job or or whatever. And then you need to take a step back and evaluate. But I think to like immediately assume that is a little premature, to like, you need to give it a chance, kind of evaluate, see if you can adapt, see if there's things you can improve, become more efficient, or, whatever it is that you need to do. But yeah, I mean, hell, now things that used to stress me, like, I don't even notice. Not only do they not
funny?
Yeah. It's like not only do they not stress you, you literally don't even notice they happen.
And then I'll reflect and go, holy shit, I used to lose my mind over the dumbest stuff, and now, like you said, we don't even think about it. And that's cool that this is like proving kind of what we're talking about, is that you do get better at stuff, and that, it's an only experience thing, but it's like, it's like, holy shit, here's my analogy. Of course, I needed one. My brain wasn't working. Is that when you first go to a swimming pool and you jump in the swimming pool, is it cold? Yes. What happens after 2 minutes? You don't even notice it's cold anymore. Exactly, because your body will acclimate, and that's exactly how your brain will do if you're staying there long enough to get your, we'll say your body or your mind used to the warm water. Cool. Versus exactly, then jump out of the pool and go jump in the hot tub, and what happens? Wow. Yeah.
Right. And you have, and from like a physiological standpoint, I mean, we have countless adaptation mechanisms in our body, whether it's physical. Yeah. I mean, both physical and emotional. I mean, you got to think there's people out there that they live at least they seem like they're happy and live a good life in conditions that someone else may consider horrendous.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, they've just adapted to the situation, or they've literally never been exposed to else, so that's their normal.
Well, I remember like growing up and just like watching like some shows or whatever about people living in New York, pick a busy place, and they had their moms and dads had 3 jobs, and that's like, to me, that's mind blowing. Like I watched my dad work some pretty crazy hours, but not 3 jobs just to pay the rent, but that's their norm. And I'm like, yeah, like you said, if you're not exposed to anything other than that, how would you know?
That's it. Okay. We have one more.
Sure. Yep.
So we'll get this.
We're right at an hour here, so yep, one more be good.
Last one. Okay. So, hello, I am 62, soon to be 63, and have returned to the gym after being gone for many years. I'm working hard with weights and eating right. My issue is the discouragement. I feel at times that my efforts aren't going anywhere. Any ideas and pointers for me? Thanks in advance. I have probably the best pointer, and this is okay. So eating right can mean a lot of things. So I'm not going to jump into that, but there could be, obviously, like, there could be nutritional and training components that aren't ideal, especially if you're doing the same thing at 62 that you were at 32. That might not be what you need, but hormones is the biggest thing. And I think that is the biggest overlooked component of older trainees, is that they get back in there, they're not getting the results that they want because, I mean, a male, declining testosterone levels at 62, 9.9 out of 10 men will have probably low T,
of course.
So, I always, I mean, I have blood work with tons of people anyhow, but especially in this case with lab work, I'm like, all right, before we even sit here and nitpick every single nutritional and training component, let's see where the actual internals are at. Let's look at your, let's look at your testosterone. Let's look at your thyroid function. We'll look at everything else too. We can look at their lipids and kidneys and liver and heart and everything. But I mean, if you don't optimize hormone profile, whether they need to be on, testosterone replacement, or they need some kind of intervention with thyroid or whatever it is, if you don't optimize those things, I mean, you're wasting your time anyhow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better. I'm not going to say you're wasting your time. Like, it's obviously better than you sitting on the couch eating potato chips, but it's not going to, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen people with actually pretty good understanding of nutrition, like in terms of how to adjust it, how to create a calorie deficit, a calorie surplus, how to program training, all of these things. But they're older and they completely miss the hormonal component. And as soon as we look at that, they're like, well, no wonder I'm not making any, not making any progress. So my advice 9 times out of 10 right there is that you need to make sure that you have all of that in line, and then everything else is going to work a heck of a lot better.
Yep. Well, and then so here's the double whammy too, is like, especially for my getting, I'll be very gentle because girls, I love you, but my girls that aren't spring chickens anymore, it's not only harder as a female to begin with to lose fat and to gain muscle. However, once you hit that 45 plus range, now you have to take into consideration if you were doing 4 hours of cardio a week. I'm just making something arbitrary in your late 20s, and now you need to do 10 hours of cardio. That is not only not going to be that healthy for you because now you are getting older, but then you're not going to see the results, which is going to affect the mental component as well. And it's just, that's the double whammy, is that you like you literally said, it's going to, some of your efforts are going to be in futility. You're going to get discouraged. And yeah, like I wish that was out there more. Is that like, and I'm not, especially for the younger crowd, they always bank on hormones and thyroid. I was like, you know what? Okay, maybe. But once you start getting into the older part, you definitely, that's one of the first things, especially like how you've heard this how many times exactly. I'm trying so hard. I'm doing what I used to do, and it's not working. Exactly, because you're not 30 years younger than where you were.
Yeah, it's the whole driving a square peg into a round hole. It's not going to work, and at least not for very long.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would certainly be my recommendation there. So that's it, man. That's it. That's perfect. Sweet.
All Excellent. Right. Well, you know what? It's been super fun as always. Like not knowing the questions beforehand, I love it. I think it's so much fun every single time, and I'm like, oh god, I hope Austin answers this one first. And then with the ones that I do know, I'm like, yeah, I'll take that one first. Yeah. So from obviously Austin and myself here at the Mind Body Broadcast, we will catch you next time.